the quaint town of Melbourne, Arkansas, where life moved at a serene pace, the morning of September 20, 2004, dawned like any other. Rebekah Gould, a vibrant 22-year-old community college student, was the embodiment of youthful optimism. With dreams larger than the rolling hills of her hometown and a smile that could light up any room, Rebekah was a beloved figure in her close-knit community. That morning, as the sun cast a golden hue over the sleepy town, Rebekah set out on her routine errand. She was to drop her boyfriend off at work, a mundane task she had done countless times before. The air was crisp, and the sky was a clear blue, unmarred by even a single cloud. As she waved goodbye to her boyfriend, neither of them knew it was a farewell that would echo through time. Hours passed, and the usual buzz of the town continued unabated. People went about their daily lives, unaware that a tragedy was unfolding in their midst. As the day turned into evening and then night, a sense of unease began to ripple through the community. Rebekah, always punctual and reliable, had not returned home. Calls to her phone went unanswered, and a sinking feeling of dread began to settle in the hearts of her loved ones. As darkness enveloped the town, the Gould residence became a hive of activity. Family and friends gathered, fear and confusion etched on their faces. The police were notified, and a search began, one that would soon grip the entire town in a vice of suspense and sorrow. Little did they know, the events of that day would mark the beginning of a harrowing journey, a mystery that would remain unsolved for years to come. The last image of Rebekah, leaving her boyfriend at work with a smile, played over and over in the minds of those who knew her. It was an image that would soon become a symbol of a life cut tragically short and a mystery that would haunt the town of Melbourne for over a decade. The second day dawned with a palpable tension hanging over Melbourne. The news of Rebekah's disappearance spread like wildfire, igniting a flurry of activity and concern among the townsfolk. The police, aided by volunteers, launched a full-scale search operation, combing through the town and its surrounding areas. The once tranquil streets were now bustling with search teams and concerned citizens, all united in their desperate quest to find Rebekah. Meanwhile, Rebekah's family grappled with a torrent of emotions. Her parents, racked with worry, coordinated with the authorities, providing them with every possible detail that could aid the search. Friends and acquaintances came forward, offering tidbits of information, however insignificant they might have seemed. Every moment was crucial, every lead a potential pathway to finding Rebekah. The community college where Rebekah studied became a center for the search efforts. Classmates recounted their last interactions with her, clinging to the hope that their memories could shed light on her whereabouts. Posters with her smiling face were plastered across town, each one a silent plea for her safe return. As the sun set on the second day, a sense of unease began to deepen. The initial surge of optimism gave way to a gnawing anxiety. The town, once a haven of peace and security, now echoed with the whispers of fear and speculation. The question on everyone's lips was the same: where was Rebekah Gould? In the midst of this turmoil, a dark realization began to set in. The longer Rebekah remained missing, the dimmer the chances of finding her unharmed. The night brought no comfort, only the heavy blanket of uncertainty and the unspoken fear of what might have befallen one of their own. As the search continued, the community banded together, holding on to hope against the creeping shadows of despair. Little did they know, the mystery of Rebekah's disappearance was only just beginning to unfold, and the days ahead would bring more questions than answers. On the morning of the third day, the serene Arkansas landscape was shattered by a harrowing discovery. A local, out for an early morning walk, stumbled upon a chilling scene on a secluded hillside off the highway. There, amidst the autumn-kissed foliage, lay the lifeless body of Rebekah Gould. The town's worst fears had been realized in the most tragic way possible. The news spread rapidly, casting a dark cloud over Melbourne. The search for Rebekah, once fueled by hope, now turned into a somber gathering at the site. The police cordoned off the area, treating it as a crime scene. The once vibrant young woman, known for her infectious laughter and kind heart, was now at the center of a murder investigation that would puzzle and haunt the community. As forensic experts descended upon the scene, a grim silence enveloped the onlookers. The reality of the situation was stark and painful. Rebekah, who had been full of dreams and aspirations, had met an untimely and brutal end. The questions that now loomed were haunting. Who had done this, and why? The initial examination revealed disturbing details. Rebekah had been struck with brutal force, and evidence of a struggle was apparent. The nature of her injuries indicated a personal and violent attack. The tranquility of the town was now pierced by the reality of a brutal killer in their midst. Rebekah's family, reeling from the shock, clung to each other for support. The community rallied around them, offering condolences and assistance. Yet beneath the surface of this support, fear and suspicion began to brew. Trust, once freely given among neighbors, was now tinged with wariness. As the sun set on this harrowing day, the police began their investigation in earnest. They vowed to leave no stone unturned in their pursuit of justice for Rebekah. The town, once a tapestry of rural simplicity, was now the backdrop for a sinister mystery. The days ahead promised a relentless search for answers, a journey through the darkest corners of human nature, and a quest for justice in the face of unimaginable loss. In the wake of the tragic discovery, Melbourne was enveloped in a somber mood. The fourth day dawned with the heavy task of unraveling the mystery behind Rebekah Gould's untimely demise. The police, determined to bring the perpetrator to justice, launched a meticulous investigation. The quiet town, once a stranger to such heinous crimes, found itself at the heart of a complex murder case. The investigation team combed through every aspect of Rebekah's life, seeking clues that might lead them to her killer. They interviewed family members, friends, acquaintances, and anyone who had last seen her. Each interview was a delicate balance of empathy and the necessity of uncovering the truth. Rebekah's loved ones, still reeling from the shock, struggled to piece together her final days. Attention turned to the scene of the crime. Forensic experts scoured the area for evidence. Every fiber, every mark, and every trace was meticulously catalogued. The terrain itself, a silent witness to the atrocity, was probed for hidden clues. The investigators knew that even the most inconsequential detail could be the key to solving the mystery. Amidst the investigation, rumors and theories began to circulate among the townspeople. The lack of immediate answers fueled speculation. The tranquility of Melbourne was replaced by a sense of paranoia and mistrust. The horror of the crime was compounded by the fear that the killer might still be among them. The police faced the daunting task of sifting through the myriad pieces of information. They pursued every lead, no matter how faint. The community college, local hangouts, and Rebekah's usual routes were all scrutinized. The investigators worked tirelessly, aware that with each passing day, the trail could grow colder. As the sun set on the fourth day, the police were resolute in their commitment. They vowed to solve the case and ensure that justice was served. For the people of Melbourne, the day ended with a mix of grief, fear, and a faint glimmer of hope. Hope that the darkness of this tragedy would eventually lead to light, that justice would prevail in the memory of Rebekah Gould. As the fifth day dawned, the investigation into Rebekah Gould's murder took a deeper, more introspective turn. The Melbourne police, now joined by state investigators, began to delve into the past, unearthing layers of Rebekah's life in their quest for answers. Each revelation painted a picture of a young woman whose life was tragically cut short, and each piece of her past was scrutinized for potential leads. Investigators retraced Rebekah's steps in the days leading up to her disappearance. Her routine, interactions, and even casual conversations were examined. They hoped to find some anomaly, some deviation from the norm that could point to a motive or a suspect. The search extended to her digital footprint. Phone records, text messages, and social media activities were all analyzed. The community, still reeling from the shock, found itself reflecting on its own interactions with Rebekah. People recalled their last encounters with her, questioning if they had missed any signs of distress or danger. The local diner where she often grabbed coffee, the library where she studied, the paths she walked, all these places now held a bittersweet significance. Meanwhile, Rebekah's family grappled with their grief, struggling to make sense of the senseless. Their home, once filled with Rebekah's laughter and dreams, now echoed with her absence. In their pain, they found a resolve to help the investigation in any way they could, providing insights into Rebekah's life and relationships. As the investigators dug deeper, they discovered complexities in Rebekah's relationships that were not immediately apparent. Friends and acquaintances were re-interviewed, this time with a more focused line of questioning. The police were aware that in such cases, the perpetrator often lurks within the victim's own circle. As the day came to a close, the town of Melbourne settled into an uneasy quiet. The once unassuming community was now thrust into a narrative they never expected, one of loss, mystery, and the relentless pursuit of truth. The echoes of Rebekah's life reverberated through the town, a constant reminder of the quest for justice that lay ahead. On the sixth day, the investigation into Rebekah Gould's murder intensified. The police, armed with new insights and revelations about Rebekah's life, began to narrow their focus. Potential suspects and persons of interest were identified, and the scrutiny became more pointed. The town of Melbourne, once an idyllic backdrop, now resembled a complex web of connections and secrets under the microscope of law enforcement. The first significant lead emerged from the analysis of Rebekah's phone records. The investigators discovered a series of calls and messages that were not part of her usual communication patterns. These communications, occurring in the days leading up to her disappearance, opened new avenues in the investigation. Each person in contact with Rebekah during that critical period became a subject of interest. Meanwhile, forensic experts continued their meticulous work, analyzing every piece of evidence gathered from the crime scene. They sought to piece together the sequence of events that led to Rebekah's tragic end. Blood samples, fibers, and other trace elements were sent to labs for detailed examination. The hope was that these silent witnesses would speak volumes in unraveling the mystery. The police also revisited Rebekah's social circle, questioning her friends, acquaintances, and anyone she had recently interacted with. The investigators were thorough, understanding that human relationships often held the key in such cases. They looked for inconsistencies in stories, unexplained behaviors, and hidden motives. The community, while supportive of the investigation, began to feel the strain of the scrutiny. The constant presence of law enforcement, the probing questions, and the unsettling reality of a murderer in their midst took its toll. A mix of fear, suspicion, and sorrow hung over Melbourne, a stark contrast to the town's usual peaceful demeanor. As the day drew to a close, the investigation had gathered momentum. But the killer remained elusive. The pieces of the puzzle were slowly coming together, yet the complete picture was still out of reach. The town braced itself for more revelations, clinging to the hope that justice for Rebekah Gould was within grasp. The journey to uncover the truth, fraught with twists and turns, continued relentlessly. The seventh day of the investigation dawned with a heavy air of anticipation. The Melbourne police, now deep into the web of Rebekah Gould's life, faced the daunting task of sifting through the multitude of leads and tips that had emerged. The community, caught between grief and the desire for closure, watched with bated breath as the authorities delved deeper into the case. Amidst the investigative fervor, a shadow of doubt began to creep in. The police faced the challenge of distinguishing between factual evidence and the misleading noise of rumors and conjecture. Every piece of information was double-checked, every alibi verified, every lead pursued with a combination of hope and skepticism. The focus turned to a select few individuals who were last known to have seen Rebekah. These persons of interest underwent detailed questioning, their accounts scrutinized for any inconsistencies. The police treaded carefully, aware that the smallest oversight could derail the investigation. At the same time, the forensic team made a breakthrough. A crucial piece of evidence, previously overlooked, emerged from the laboratory analysis. This evidence, potentially linked to the killer, added a new dimension to the case. It was a tangible clue in a sea of uncertainties, a beacon that could potentially lead to the murderer. As the investigation progressed, the fabric of trust within the community began to fray. Friendships and acquaintanceships were strained under the weight of suspicion. The realization that the killer might be one of their own cast a chilling pall over the town. People began to look at each other with a mix of fear and doubt, wondering if the friendly face they knew harbored a dark secret. Rebekah's family, engulfed in their loss, clung to each new development with a mixture of hope and despair. The outpouring of support from the community provided a small comfort in their unimaginable grief. Yet the constant reminders of Rebekah's absence made each day a struggle. As the seventh day came to a close, the investigation had taken a significant turn. The shadows of doubt were slowly being illuminated by the light of evidence and fact. The police, more determined than ever, continued their relentless pursuit of the truth. The town of Melbourne, once a picture of tranquility, now stood at the crossroads of fear and hope, awaiting the revelation of a truth that would change their community forever. The eighth day in the aftermath of Rebekah Gould's murder unfolded with a heightened sense of urgency. The Melbourne police, bolstered by the recent breakthrough in forensic evidence, were now weaving through a tangled web of relationships and secrets that surrounded Rebekah's life. The evidence pointed towards a more complex motive, suggesting that Rebekah's death was not a random act of violence, but something more personal and premeditated. This revelation redirected the focus of the investigation towards those closest to her. Each relationship was dissected, every interaction re-examined under this new light. Meanwhile, the community of Melbourne grappled with the unsettling truth that the perpetrator might be hiding in plain sight. Trust, which had once been the cornerstone of this tight-knit community, was now replaced with suspicion and unease. The familiar faces of neighbors and friends were now viewed through the lens of doubt and fear. The police conducted a series of discreet surveillance operations, hoping to catch the killer unawares. They knew that in cases like this, the perpetrator often remained close to the investigation, driven by a twisted desire to witness the aftermath of their actions. Every unusual behavior, every nervous glance, was noted and analyzed. At the same time, the forensic team continued to work tirelessly, piecing together the physical evidence with the emerging narrative of Rebekah's last days. They were constructing a timeline that they hoped would lead them to the killer. The meticulous nature of this work was both a blessing and a curse, crucial in its detail, but agonizingly slow. In the midst of this, a ray of hope emerged when a witness came forward with new information. This person, previously hesitant to get involved, provided an account that shed light on a possible motive for the murder. This new testimony was a valuable piece of the puzzle, potentially linking the scattered pieces of evidence and suspicions. As the eighth day drew to a close, the investigation had taken on a new direction. The police, armed with fresh evidence and insights, were closer than ever to unraveling the mystery of Rebekah Gould's murder. The town of Melbourne, once an emblem of peace, now held its breath, waiting for the moment when the tangled web of secrets would finally unravel, revealing the harsh truth hidden in its threads. The ninth day in the investigation of Rebekah Gould's murder dawned with a sense of cautious optimism. The Melbourne police, now armed with new testimonies and critical forensic evidence, began to see the contours of the truth emerging from the shadows of uncertainty. The pieces of the puzzle, once disjointed and obscure, were gradually fitting together to form a coherent picture. The focus of the investigation had narrowed significantly. The police, combining the witness testimonies with the forensic evidence, identified a primary suspect. This individual, someone from Rebekah's inner circle, had previously escaped scrutiny due to a seemingly airtight alibi. However, new evidence brought to light inconsistencies in their account, casting a glaring spotlight on their involvement. As the police delved deeper into this suspect's background, they uncovered a web of lies and deceit. Motives rooted in jealousy, unrequited love, and deep-seated resentment began to surface, painting a disturbing portrait of the person Rebekah had once trusted. The realization that the killer was someone she knew intimately added a tragic layer to the already heartbreaking case. Meanwhile, the community of Melbourne reacted with shock and disbelief as the suspect's identity became the subject of whispered conversations. The revelation shattered the illusion of safety and familiarity that had long defined the town. Neighbors exchanged wary glances, and friends huddled together, trying to reconcile the person they thought they knew with the heinous nature of the crime. The Gould family, confronted with this new revelation, grappled with a complex mix of emotions. The pain of loss was now compounded by a sense of betrayal. The knowledge that Rebekah's killer was someone within her own circle was a bitter pill to swallow. Yet there was a glimmer of solace in the fact that the mystery was close to being solved. As the sun set on the 9th day, the Melbourne police prepared to make their move. The suspect, unaware of the closing net, continued their routine, a facade of normalcy that was about to be shattered. The town braced itself for the impending confrontation, hoping that the imminent arrest would bring some measure of justice for Rebekah. The night fell on Melbourne with a tense anticipation. The dark shadows that had hung over the town since Rebekah's murder were finally beginning to lift, revealing the harsh light of truth. The journey of the past 9 days, fraught with twists and turns, was nearing its end. But the final chapter of this tragic tale was yet to be written. The dawn of the 10th day marked a pivotal moment in the tragic saga of Rebekah Gould's murder. The Melbourne police, after a meticulous and emotionally taxing investigation, were ready to bring the perpetrator to justice. The suspect, once a part of Rebekah's trusted inner circle, was about to face the consequences of their heinous act. As the first light of day crept over the horizon, a carefully planned operation was set into motion. The police moved with precision, converging on the suspect's residence. The element of surprise was crucial, ensuring that the suspect had no opportunity to flee or cause further harm. The arrest was swift and uneventful, a stark contrast to the turmoil that had engulfed the town for the past 9 days. The suspect, caught off guard, offered no resistance. As they were led away in handcuffs, a palpable sense of relief, mixed with deep sorrow, swept over the officers. The case that had consumed their lives and shaken the town to its core was finally reaching a resolution. The news of the arrest spread quickly, bringing a collective sigh of relief from the community. For the residents of Melbourne, it was a moment of profound sadness and reflection. The realization that the killer had been among them all along was a sobering thought. The town mourned for Rebekah and for the innocence it had lost. For Rebekah's family, the arrest brought a complex array of emotions. While nothing could fill the void left by her absence, there was comfort in knowing that her killer would not go unpunished. The family stood together, a symbol of resilience and unity in the face of unimaginable adversity. Their journey of grief was far from over, but they drew strength from the love and support of the community. The trial that followed was a highly charged affair, drawing attention from far beyond the borders of Melbourne. The evidence, painstakingly gathered by the investigators, painted a clear and damning picture of the suspect's guilt. The motive, rooted in a dark tangle of emotional turmoil and resentment, was laid bare for all to see. As the gavel fell and the sentence was pronounced, a chapter in Melbourne's history came to a close. The sentence served as a reminder of the justice system's resolve to uphold the law and protect the innocent. The town, forever changed by the events of those 10 days, began the slow process of healing. Rebekah Gould's memory lived on in the hearts of those who knew her. Her spirit, characterized by joy, kindness, and unfulfilled dreams, became a beacon for the community. In her honor, Melbourne found a new resolve to cherish the bonds of community and to watch over one another. The story of Rebekah Gould, marked by tragedy, ended with a measure of justice. But her legacy, a reminder of the fragility of life and the importance of compassion would endure in the town of Melbourne for generations to come.